Hello, Internet! Welcome to another episode of the Engram here on iTunes, on gkick.net, and of course on YouTube. Good to see you all. Good to be back. It's been a little while since I did my last episode, a little longer than I actually wanted to, because a lot of stuff has happened, but because of stuff I'm doing personally, my work schedule, everything, it's been really hard to actually get this done. So, while I try to figure out a way to do these episodes on demand, which is kind of what I really want to do, I'm just going to fill them in when I can. So, anyway, big thing that I wanted to talk about, there's actually a lot I want to talk about today. We're going to talk about the changes coming to Iron Banner, really huge list of changes coming that way. We're going to talk about the Halloween event, I guess, so to say, or the special Halloween treat that everybody gets in the game. And we're also going to talk about the implementation of the latest patch. And there's been a few comments already made regarding the patch by the community manager, Deej, just to kind of clarify what Bungie's stance is regarding the raiding content in the game. So we'll get to that in a second. But first and foremost, I want to talk Iron Banner. So, in the latest weekly update, there have been a lot of changes that are being made to the Iron Banner event. For those of you who maybe just joined the game or aren't familiar with what Iron Banner is, because it was a very short event, Iron Banner was designed to be the definitive PvP special event, with the purpose being that you get into Iron Banner, your gear matters. So the idea, like all of us thought, was that players who are 28, 29, 30, having the best gear, they were going to be just running rampant through this mode. And the concept that I thought of is that this was basically PvP endgame. You know, you go through the Crucible, you get your skills up, you get your gear up, and then by the time you're at a high level, then you're going to hit Iron Banner, and you can really start to do some damage. Like, I didn't think that you needed to raid to do Iron Banner necessarily, and I still don't think you will be able to, but what it turned out to be was the gear variance, or at least the difference, the advantage of having better gear wasn't that present in Iron Banner. And you were still getting low-level players getting into Iron Banner and being able to take out higher-level players, which it really shouldn't have been. So a few changes have been made to make this work. First thing, and I think the most important one, is the level advantage matters more. So they haven't really explained exactly how much it matters, but it doesn't really, I don't really care. The fact that they are going to implement changes so that your higher level gear, your better gear, your weapons, your armor will matter more in Iron Banner, which is the way it should be, is great. The other change that comes to that, and in their desire to really make gear matter, there is a lock of level 20 in the mode. So to say, if you're playing solo, you have to be level 20 minimum to even play Iron Banner. If you're part of a fire team, then your fire team leader has to be level 20 or higher to get you into the mode. But it's going to be designed in such a way that if you're not level 20, you're going to have a really, really hard time. And that's the way it should be. Like, this should be PvP endgame. You know, if you want a PvP and you're not level 20 yet, do the Crucible. Crucible's great. Tons of great modes in that in Crucible. You don't need to do Iron Banner. Iron Banner should be endgame PvP content. The equivalent of, or somehow the equivalent of raiding content, but for PvP. That's really the way I think it should be. And that's what it looks like they're starting to strive toward, and it's really going to come down to how it gets implemented when you know the mode actually hits the second time around. Another thing that was a huge complaint to people was there wasn't really a penalty for quitting an Iron Banner game. You know, the advantage was to win. If you didn't win, you just bailed. There was no benefit to quitting. So they're adding a little bit of an incentive to stick it out. Maybe this will work, and this is one of those things that's going to be a little bit of trial and error. So one of the things they're going to do is if you lose in an Iron Banner game, you're going to earn something called a Medallion of Iron. And when you win your next game, whatever that game may be, the next time you win, each medallion you have gets redeemed for reputation that's the equivalent of a win. So that means, well, almost the equivalent. I don't know what the discrepancy is going to be, but it'll basically almost like you won. And the more medallions you have, obviously, you'll get each one as a credit. So there's an incentive to stick around and get your medallion so you still get that reputation gain by the next time you win. So it's probably not good if you're terrible and you always lose, but that's, the penalty of being an Iron Banner. So that's pretty good. Next up is a little bit of change to some of the benefits of Iron Banner. One of the really interesting things comes down to a new weapon, and I believe it's a piece of armor and a piece of weaponry. Well, we don't know for sure. Actually, they haven't clarified yet, but there's going to be 2 items that are going to be bumped up to level 30 as one of the rewards from Iron Banner. So that means possibly an alternate route to getting to level 30 or getting some higher level gear. I believe that they feel like it could be a side grade to somebody who's already level 30, but we'll kind of have to see how it is in game. It might just be level 30 equivalent gear that you get if you're already level 30. It may be a requirement of the gear to be level 30 already, but I don't know yet. We're going to have to find out. Bounties are also being addressed. As far as bounties go, the value of each bounty is being upped a bit, and Lord Saladin, who is the Iron Banner guy, is going to be the one who deals with those bounties. So they're trying to change it in such a way that the bounties will be valuable, but not ridiculously over the top in order to achieve in Iron Banner. Another couple of features that they're introducing are reforging and tempered. So in reforging, to kind of explain how this is going to work, any item that you get from the Iron Banner event can be re-rolled as far as changing the types of upgrades, or things like that. So that'll cost motes of light to do, and we don't really know the specifics of exactly how that'll pan out, but we'll start to see that when the event hits next time. Next thing, as far as tempered goes, one of the hardest things about Iron Banner is that it's a week-long event, and some people maybe don't have really a ton of time they can play in a week. So anybody who plays a ton is going to be able to gain a lot of reputation. So what's going to happen in the next Iron Banner event is Lord Saladin is going to offer a 12-hour buff called Tempered, which is going to boost Iron Banner rep gains. So as the week keeps going on, the boost is going to become more and more potent, which means if you start playing later in the week, you're still going to be able to catch up and get a lot of reputation gain. Additionally, there will not be a reset of the Iron Banner reputation gained in the first round, which happened a few weeks ago. Now, they're going to change over the method of how Iron Banner works from a reputation setup to an event standing setup, where the ranks get reset every time the event happens. But they're still trying to figure all that out right now. But as far as it goes, if you've already earned reputation in Iron Banner from the last round, you're going to keep it going into this next upcoming round. So a lot of that is kind of vague at the moment because it's still being tested and implemented, and they're still trying to figure out exactly how they want to make it all happen, you know? But all of it sounds really great to me. This is stuff that Bungie has clearly been addressing. It's complaints that a lot of people had about the Iron Banner event. It's a lot of stuff that we talked about on this show back when the Iron Banner event last ended, and the faults with it, you know, the problem with Iron Banner, and it's being addressed. So that's really what it comes down to. It is being addressed, and I think that's the most important thing. So now, we are just a few days removed from Halloween. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And with that being said, there's a little bit of a Halloween, not really event, so to say, but a little bit of a special treat for Destiny players in the game with the latest patch. Every player has been rewarded a special All Hallows Eve gift package, which comes with 3 little buff items that, when used, will put a Jack-o'-lantern type mask on your helm. And it lasts through whether you're at the tower or at, in combat down on the planets. And it's just a little visual effect, but it also triggers a lot of weird little sound effects, like weird screams and evil laughs and stuff like that. It's a bit interesting. I can see how somebody might be inclined to use it and then, maybe turn it off about 10 minutes later because the sounds get a little bit annoying and distracting. But it's a half an hour buff. You get 3 of them. You can use them whenever you want. You can get rid of them if you want. Doesn't really matter. But that's that. There we go. That's much better. For those of you not on YouTube, my chair sank, so I fixed it. Anyway, so with that said, it's a really neat little touch, and maybe if they have a little bit more prep time and not trying to fix their game and more time to kind of add these little special events, we might see a little bit more with different holidays down the line. Patch 1.0.2.3 hit, which is the big Atheon change patch. A few technical fixes to kind of address a lot of the kick to orbit issues that people have been having. And then, of course, the fixes to Atheon as far as his time streamability and being knocked off the platform. So that all went into effect. Now, one of the things that people complained about and that we started to address on our last episode was the difficulty in raiding, and also the change that they were making to Atheon was kind of being disputed due to a kind of a problem that people had with the lack of control and the lack of strategy and more reliance on RNG. And the way that it's been addressed by, the folks the folks at Bungie really has to come down to what the biggest problem or what the biggest intent is for raiding in Destiny. And what Bungie wants with their raid content is for it to be very hard and for it to require a group of hardcore players to tackle. So that means they're not building the raid around allowing you to randomly form groups or pull random people in. And it might even be harder to, carry people through that raid. But I think that's according to Bungie, that is the intent of the raiding content, is to be that way. And the way I see it, that's fine. Just because you play the game doesn't necessarily mean you're entitled to see every bit of content, regardless of your skill level or playtime or anything like that. I think it's better that way, because the more people who can play the content, the better it is, because that means that, you spent all this time creating this content, why not allow more players to have access to it? But sometimes you want to tailor content to a specific type of player, and raiding content does that. What I'd like to see, however, is if that's the way it's going to be, and that's fine, there should be alternate ways to get high-level gear for at least PvP's sake. Because it's not right for hardcore players to be able to raid, get level 30 or level 29 gear, get really high-end gear, and then go right into PvP and be able to dominate. Now, I don't think there's a lot of domination that's happening, especially in Crucible and things like that. There's a lot of balance checks that are in effect there. But maybe even things like Iron Banner. Iron Banner really should be PvP endgame. Basically, if that's the path you want to follow, like for example, in World of Warcraft, here I go again. If you follow the PvP path to endgame, you've got dungeons, heroic dungeons, challenge mode, raids. In PvE or PvP, you've got battlegrounds, arena, raided battlegrounds, and then, hardcore arena teams, things like that. So you've got different kind of paths to follow on either side, and they both lead to equivalent levels of gear, depending on how much time you spend. And I think that's what I'd like to see with Destiny, is use Iron Banner as that end game PvP mode. You know, yeah, gear can be a factor. That's fine. But the rewards from there should progress you to the same level that raid gear would progress you to. And I know that there's no real system in Bungie that differentiates between PvP and PvE gear, at least not quite as significantly as some MMO games do. But in this case, I just think it'd be a good way to have an alternate path to getting equivalent gear so that you're not so disadvantaged against well-geared raid players who decide to PvP. So, that's what I'd like to see. But that's really all I have for this episode. I'm going to be back again, hopefully a lot sooner, to at least talk about the weekly update, which should be coming pretty soon. I'm going to be fairly busy throughout the next few days as I move. Not from here. I've moved to here, but I've got a lot of stuff to take care of, and whatever. Doesn't matter. But anyway, that is going to do it for this episode. I will see you all next time. For my YouTube folks, here is your Moment of Zen. Happy hunting, Guardians. We'll see you next time.